A very good morning, viewers. You're watching Cricket Central with me, Deepak Suresh Kumar. The stage is set for a blockbuster semi-final of the 2023 Cricket World Cup between two of the most evenly matched teams in the world, India and New Zealand, if Pakistan loses against England by a huge margin, because India, the top-ranked team in the world, have been in omnious form throughout the World Cup, winning all 8 of their group matches. New Zealand, on the other hand, have been more inconsistent, but they have shown that they are capable of beating anyone on their day. The match is evenly poised and either team could win. But if there is one thing that is for sure, that is that match will be a thrilling and a dramatic contest at the Wankhede Stadium, where the first semi-final will be played. And Trent Boult, who is a Kiwi bowler, has been explicitly good with the ball in this World Cup. He has been bowling good for the New Zealanders. He has been leading the pace battery. He's the key cog in New Zealand's pace attack. And Trent Boult could pose a threat to Team India if Pakistan loses against England and India and New Zealand lock horns in the semi-finals at the Wankhede Stadium. He could bowl out India's top-order batsmen early on, which would put Hitman and his team under pressure. He could exploit the swing-friendly conditions in Wankhede, where the semi-finals will be played. He could bowl with the new ball and the old ball, making him a threat throughout the innings, and he could use his experience to outsmart Team India. But India seems to have learned from its mistakes in 2019, and another factor they can't forget is about the Wankhede challenge. So far, the team batting first in this World Cup have won 3 of the 4 games in this World Cup so far, and the conditions seem to favor the team defending the total in the second innings. Now, to give us more insights on what could be a semi-final thriller, we have Vedam Jaishankar joining us on this broadcast. Good morning, Vedam. The stage is set for India versus New Zealand semi-final 1, and to jinx that, Pakistan will have to win by a huge margin or bowl out England for 13 runs if they score a 300-plus target, or Pakistan will have to score 120 runs in 4 overs, which is highly unlikely. So let's consider that India will be playing the Kiwis at the Wankhede Stadium. So what kind of a challenge will this pose to Hitman and his team?
Good morning, Deepak. Like you rightly said, Pakistan is virtually out of it. To put it into a short perspective, if they get England all out for 200, they'll have to score the runs in about 3 overs. So they're virtually out of the competition. But yes, New Zealand are a different kettle of fish. But the problem with New Zealand is that bowling is not very strong. You know, you mentioned Trent Boult. Yes, he is their key pin. He's the guy who needs to be watched, because with the new ball, he can bring the ball back. And that's not very good news for some of the Indian batsmen. And if he holds the line, he goes towards slips, which also is a challenge. Like we saw yesterday, the Sri Lankans floundered with that when he kept the ball going towards the slips. But he doesn't have too much of support, because Ferguson is not the bowler he was maybe a year ago. He's coming out of injuries. As far as the others are concerned, I mean, we've seen the sort of spin they have. Santner is a good spinner, but whether it is Ravindra or Phillips, I don't think they pose much of a challenge. So I think the problem for New Zealand is their bowling is weak. Unless they get at the Indian top order very quickly, they will be in deep trouble. Earlier, they used to have bowlers like Kugle and Snedden and Larson. In fact, Virat Kohli bowls faster than Larson. So in ideal conditions, there used to be a challenge for India. But in Indian conditions, I don't think any of these Kiwi bowlers, including Boult, will be too much of a challenge. Boult may be good for 2 overs, really worrying this Indian batting order.
Vedam, with Boult aside, we also have Tim Southee coming in for the Kiwis this time. What kind of a threat can Tim Southee pose for the Indian top order?
Tim Southee really, his entire thing is on his height and pace, but he's dropped in pace. He's dropped big time in pace. So it's just the height that he's got, which has to give him a lot of bounce. But the problem on Indian pitches is that will not be an asset for him. In fact, he will come on to the bat. So unless the pitch really helps him, I don't see Tim Southee being a threat at all. In fact, we've seen even some of the smaller sides beat the living daylights out of him. So I don't think Tim Southee will be a challenge, especially on Indian pitches and to this crop of Indian batsmen.
19 old wounds are set to reopen this time around as well. Last time the Indian top order crumbled, followed by the middle order, and the bowlers could do very less with the ball because India as a team, it crumbled in the semi-final one against New Zealand. So this time the lessons have been learned. Can India, redeem their victory from 2019?
Yeah, again, like I said, it depends on the conditions. If you're going to play in England, yes, maybe this New Zealand side would be a top side. But if you're going to play in India on Indian pitches, and I don't think India is going to give them a pitch where they can, enjoy themselves. I think the pitch will be slow, the pitch will be low bounce, and it will really help the Indian bowlers more than the New Zealand bowlers. So all in all, I don't think New Zealand will have a good time. And they realize that even if you look at their victories are mostly against, except maybe for England, their victories are mostly against the minnows of international cricket. So in Indian conditions, I think India is king of the walk.
Also, Vedam, do you think the toss is a very important factor because the team batting second so far have lost all games and the team defending the total have won 3 out of the 4 games at the Wankhede Stadium in this World Cup. So, do you think that the toss could really play could really have an influence on the match?
Yes, the toss will have an influence, especially because we're not sure how much of dew would be there on the Wankhede outfield and the Wankhede pitch. Actually, the dew helps the bowlers in the initial stages, especially with the new ball, where it skids through and, there's some sort of seam movement. And that kind of seam movement and skidding is enough to get rid of any top order batting lineup. So we don't know how much of dew would be there on the wicket and on the outfield. If the dew is heavy, especially in the initial stages of your batting, then it's tough for the batsman because it freshens up the pitch. The pitch becomes a little more, conducive to fast bowling. But as it wears on, the dew will become a negative factor for the spinners because they won't be able to hold the ball. And even the fast bowlers will not be able to try out their slower deliveries. It'll just come on like you're bowling with a bar of soap. So it becomes very difficult. Yes, the toss would be ideal, but if there's no dew available, I think India will be better served by batting second. Otherwise, also, I don't think India will be troubled with this New Zealand side.
Okay, but we've seen how India themselves troubled Sri Lanka at the Wankhede Stadium recently, skittling them out for less than 100 runs. And now with Tim Southee, Trent Boult and also Mitchell Santner in New Zealand side, do you think that if India bats first and put on a good target, do you think they'll be able to defend it?
Yes, of course, because we have only 5 bowling options. As long as they stay fit, it's not a challenge because they know exactly. If you watch the Indian bowlers bowl, they just bowl in the corridor or in stump area. So they know that they're going to hit the wicket. Somebody like Jadeja also, he just doesn't move out of the stump area. He's there in the stump area all the time. So if you have a good total, I think this New Zealand side will be really tough. It will be very tough for them to get past the Indian score. And when you look at this overall picture of this Indian side, this is the best Indian side ever. I think so. Especially for one-day cricket. Their batting is working out brilliantly. Their bowling is working out brilliantly. Their fielding is absolutely brilliant. I only hope that some of the lesser guys actually get some good runs and provide the Indian duo. When I say duo, I mean Rohit Sharma and Kohli, the kind of support they really need. If they can give that kind of a support, I see India winning easily.
About Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, Vedam, in the first match when India and New Zealand played in this World Cup, Kane Williamson wasn't there, but this time he will also be there in the team. So how important of a cog is Kane Williamson in New Zealand's batting lineup?
He's absolutely very important because he is one who, he's not a wham bam player. He understands the Indian conditions very well, having played so much of IPL cricket here. And, he's one of those classical batsmen who can accelerate when he wants. And he doesn't have a weakness. When you look at his batting, whether it is spin or pace, he doesn't have an apparent weakness. And, I think the entire New Zealand side batting will revolve around him. He will hang on to one side while the others will try and go for their shots. So the key is to get rid of Williamson as soon as possible, because he is the sort of batsman who can hold the innings together. He will give confidence to batsmen like Ravindra, Phillips, and a whole lot of others to go for it. But if he is removed early, then I think India will be on velvet.
And also, Vedam, one quick question. Yesterday after the match against Sri Lanka, Trent Boult said, I want a piece of the host nation, which has been in dominant form. So, does this come across as a warning to Team India that, in the semi-final, that Trent Boult could look to strike early against the men in blue?
See, Deepak, these are all mind games. He's putting pressure on himself. By making all sorts of threats. He's played for Mumbai Indians, and somebody like Rohit Sharma would have played him umpteen number of times in the nets. And I think all his tricks Rohit would know. And he would also know Rohit's batting. He knows the plus points of it and the weaknesses of it. And I'm sure they'll dig into his knowledge about Rohit Sharma's batting. So I think both sides know each other well. Trent Boult is unnecessarily putting pressure on himself and his team. So I don't know. It's just mind games. It may not even work at all.
Right, Vedam. Many thanks for joining us on this broadcast. Viewers, 99.9% the semi-final one will be played against New Zealand at the Wankhede Stadium. But if Pakistan manages to pull out a huge victory, which is highly unlikely, if they manage to skittle out England for 13 runs after scoring a formidable target of over 300, or even if they are chasing, and if they could put up a total of about 120 in 4 overs, only then can Pakistan qualify for the semi-finals. But that's highly unlikely given the kind of form their batsmen are in. They're completely in shambles. Babar Azam has lost his touch. Imamul Haq has been removed. The only player that could probably make the difference for Pakistan but not help them get to the semi-finals is Fakhar Zaman. And all the games so far that Fakhar Zaman has played for Pakistan, the Pakistan team has won. And keeping him out of the team in this World Cup has cost them very dearly as well. So let's wait and watch how things will pan out and how Pakistan's match against England will transpire in their face-off. With that, viewers, we'll slip into a short break now. More news and updates on the other side. Do stay tuned.